Hey everyone, my name is Sean, and in today's video we are going to be building an Exodia deck. Now I had a really fun game with this online, and when I went back to look at the footage of this, I realized that I had also recorded myself building the deck. Now normally for my videos I have the deck already pre-built, I break it down into certain categories, and then I explain to you what each card does. But this time I thought, let me try something a little bit more fun and something a little bit different, and actually show you what goes through my head as I build the deck and as I go through each card and how I use the games features in order to help me finish and complete a deck. So going to be a little bit different. My apologies if this is a little bit all over the place, because this is a pre-recorded video, so I'm doing voice commentary over it, so I'm not actually controlling the game. I'm actually just speaking over what I was thinking at the time. But I think this could be good, and I think this can kind of show people what goes through my head and how I build my decks a little bit easier. I will be doing a video in the future on how to do good deck building. I'm doing a ton of videos this weekend, so it's Halloween weekend. I think Ghost Tricks just came out, and so I'm building videos for the future. And I will be going into more detail to teach people how to build a deck the way that I do in this game. But for now, we'll just focus on Exodia and go through it. So when I go through a deck the first time, I'm not really familiar with it and I don't know what it is. I take the key cards that I know I want to focus on and I put them in the side deck. Obviously, one step before this is that I read the cards and I have a read of what they do. And for this build of the deck, I'm going to be focused on the pieces of Exodia, the Exodia Incarnate monster, and 3 copies of the trap card Obliterate. Now, I already know what these cards do, but I'll explain it to you. Exodia Incarnate is a high-level spellcaster monster that can special summon itself to the field by tributing 1 piece of Exodia. And when it comes out on the field, it has attack equal to the number of pieces of Exodia in your graveyard times 1000. Now, this card is unaffected by card effects, and if you've got multiple pieces of Exodia in your graveyard, that's good for you because the card's attack gets even stronger. And then when this card is destroyed or is sent from the field to the graveyard, one of those two, you can then get pieces of Exodia back. Or it has a draw power effect as well. Then we have the card Obliterate, and Obliterate is a trap card. It has got a really good effect that says you can target 1 monster on the field, send 1 piece of Exodia from your hand or deck to the graveyard, and then you can bounce that monster on the field back to the opponent's hand. So it's a good removal card. And so my focus on this deck is trying to build Exodia in a way where we are going to be able to utilize the pieces not just as actual resources, and not just say sit behind stall cards and wait until we draw them and try to win that way. I do have a deck like that, and I might put a video of that deck because I do have a video of that too that I was pre-recorded. But I like playing like this a bit more. I like making sure that every single piece of every card in my deck can be used in many different ways as possible, so that we have lots and lots of utility. And I really enjoyed this deck build. So what I'm currently doing right now is I'm looking for starters that will have synergy with the pieces in the side deck. And if you can see what I'm doing here, I'm putting a lot of spellcaster support cards into my main deck. So the couple of cards which we're working on and I'll go through is, first of all, we have Magician's Souls. Magician's Souls is a card that can send 1 level 6 or higher spellcaster monster from your deck to the graveyard in order to special summon her to the field. This is really good because you can send cards like Apprentice Illusion Magician, but you can also send the high level versions of Exodia directly to the graveyard and then summon her to the field. And by summoning her to the field, this is good because we can then use her as a body and a material to do some link summoning with. But also, she gives you a bit of draw power as well, because when she sends spell and trap cards from your hand or field to the graveyard, you can then draw that many cards. And being that we're playing Exodia, drawing cards is always good. So it's not a bad thing to have that as well. Now the goal of this deck isn't necessarily to win by using Exodia and drawing in all of the pieces into your hand, but the idea is to have that as an option. So if we have to discard an Exodia to do like Nightmare Phoenix effect, I'm going to discard it. Or if I'm going to summon an Exodia from the deck to be able to tribute over for the Exodia, the legendary Exodia Incarnate, then I'm going to use it that way. It's not just about like holding the pieces in your hand and hoping to win that way. And then another engine we're running as starters, that is always a good starter engine for any deck that doesn't need a normal summon but has a lot of space for a lot of draw power in the deck, is the Spellbook engine. But first, it looks like I'm doing instant fusion, so I'll talk about that. So instant fusion is also going to be a start for this deck, because instant fusion can pay 1,000 life points to summon spellcasters out of your extra deck to the field. And so we've got Millennium Eyes Restrict, Thousand Eyes Restrict, and El Shadow Winder. All spellcasters that are dark spellcasters that's going to have synergy with other cards I'm going to put in the deck later on. Now we're doing terraforming, we're doing our limited cards, so I always like to look at the limited cards. Almost every single deck I run nowadays has Foolish Burial, Terraforming, and Monster Reborn. So I almost wish they came in, as soon as I press new deck, the game will say Monster Reborn, Foolish Burial, and Terraforming in every single deck, because there's a very high likely chance I'm going to use those cards. And so I've put in our Terraforming because there is some good spellcaster based field spells that we can use in this deck for our defensive options. And then I've put Foolish Burial and Monster Reborn into the side as extenders. Now, what I'm currently doing here at the moment is I'm currently looking at just seeing, are there any other spellcasters which could work well in Magician Souls instead of Apprentice Illusion Magician? And I don't think there is. Unless you're playing a dedicated deck like Witchcrafters, Dark Magicians. I was even looking at Hextrude for a little bit, trying to remind myself what she does. Unless you're playing a certain archetype, Magician Soul's best target is usually Apprentice Illusion Magician. But I was just having another look here. Now, one of the features that helps me so much, and is the reason why I like playing Link Evolution more than Dueling Book, more than YGO Pro, and any other version of Yu-Gi-Oh out there, I think even Master Duel won't have this feature, is the ability to look at the cards related tab. By being able to press R1 or L2 or L1 or whatever it is on whatever device you're doing, and look at all the cards that are related to the card you're currently highlighting, is such a helpful feature for me for when I'm doing amp deck building, because I can quickly scan cards and read what they are. Whereas if you're playing Dueling Book or you're playing something like YGO Pro, you actually have to manually search different keywords. So if I want to look at all the cards that work with Exodia, I have to type in Exodia. All the cards that want to work with spellcasters, I have to type in spellcasters and go through them. It's not as nearly as intuitive as this system is, and that helps me a lot. So do take advantage of that feature in this deck as well. Now, whenever I start a deck, the first thing I try to do is try to put as many possible starters as I can into the main deck, and all the cards that I think will help out later on into the side deck. And when you are looking for starter cards, the magic number is 14. If you can get 14 starter cards into your deck, good starter cards by the way, they can't just be anything. Like some decks won't be able to run instant fusion, for example, like there's no point doing so. But it can be used as a starter card or an extender. If you can get 14 good starter cards into a deck, you have a 90% chance of drawing at least one of them in your opening hand of 5 cards, and that's really helpful. That's really ideal, because if you ever played a deck and you've ever built a deck and then you draw like your hand and you realize, man, I completely bricked, it's probably because you didn't have enough starters in your deck, or or maybe you just got unlucky, or maybe you have too many other type of cards in your deck like removal or defensive or extenders in your deck. And so I always try to get close to 14 as possible. Now, it isn't always possible to get to 14 cards, but that's my goal. That's my aim. I always try to go for that. And so that is currently what I am doing here. So, this version of Exodia, what we're going to do now is add Treasure Panda. Treasure Panda, I haven't spoken about him just yet, I don't think. So Treasure Panda is my last starter. Treasure Panda is a card where you can banish spell and trap cards in your graveyard to then summon a normal monster whose level is equal to the number of cards you banished. And so if we banish just one spell card in our graveyard, we can summon a level 1 monster from our deck, which then can be used as a link material, because you gain 1 monster on the field, and that's a piece of Exodia that we're going to be summoning, so we can use it to tribute over for the Exodia Incarnate. So Treasure Panda is really nice here, but I'm only doing 1 copy of Treasure Panda because he's not searchable, he's not a spellcaster, and free, you don't want more than 4 normal summon focus cards in your deck. If you run more than 4 cards that focus on being like, if this card is normal summoned, or you have to normal summon it in order to get the value out of it, then when you start going more than 4, you have more than a 10% chance of drawing 1 or more of them in your deck, in your hand, when you start the game. And that means 1 card you'll be able to use, but the other card you won't be able to, because you've only got the 1 normal summon. So 1 treasure panda is fine, and then our 3 Spellbook Magician of Prophecies as well. Now I'm at the point where I'm adding extenders to the deck. The extenders I've added so far are Magician's Restage, Dark Magic Veil, Monster Reborn, and Foolish Burial. Dark Magic Veil is a card that can summon dark spellcasters from the graveyard for your hand or for the cost of 1000 life points. That's going to work with Magician's Souls, that's going to work with our extra deck monsters, that doesn't work with Exodia Incarnate, I believe. I think he has to be summoned through his own effect, but it can summon a piece of Exodia as well, so it works with a lot of our cards. Monster Reborn is the best extender in the game. I put him in pretty much every single deck I run. It's just such a valuable card to have, and Magician's Restage works a lot like Monster Reborn, but it can only summon spellcasters that are level 3 or lower. So that works well with Magician's Souls, that works well with Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, that works well with Exodia pieces, that can summon Millennium Eyes, Thousand Eyes. It has so many targets you can use with Restage as well. Plus, Restage is a continuous spell card, so it stays on the field. So it's a good card that you can then use as fodder for Magician's Souls to get more draw power. So that's really, really good synergy for this deck here. So, and I've also put Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial in some decks can be considered a starter, in some decks it can be considered an extender. It depends on what you're planning to send to the graveyard, and whether it then does something while when you've sent that card to the graveyard, or whether you then need another card to make good use of it. And we can send our piece of Exodia directly to the graveyard using Foolish Burial, but then ideally we might want to either revive them or recover them. So Foolish Burial is more of an extender here. It doesn't really do start our plays for us by putting it in the graveyard, but I mean it can be considered a starter card as well. It's up to you. Now, if you ever get lost, anytime you're trying to add extenders to your deck, if you have 14 starters and you're going, then you're building extenders, a good number of extenders to have in your deck is 12. Now, it doesn't have to be extenders, it could be defensive cards, removal cards, whatever the second most important category is to you after your starters, you do want about 12 of them. And with 14 starters and 12 of another group, you have one chance of opening your hand with a starter, and a 90% chance of opening the hand with a starter, and I think a 66% chance of opening going into your opening hand with one starter and one extender or one defensive card or one whatever card you really want to open with along your starter card. So for example, if I were playing a Go second deck and I want to break my opponent's board, I would maybe put 14 starters in the deck and then put 12 removal cards in the deck that are going to guarantee that I can break my opponent's board, and then that way I can destroy my opponent's board, play a starter, and then I can take control of the board. So for this deck here, we're focusing on extenders because we want to keep on abusing our cards, and by having extenders in our deck and a lot of extenders, we can use our pieces of Exodia as materials for link summons and other things as well, like Exodia Incarnate. Now, I did kind of fly ahead forward. I did kind of just add in a bunch of cards. Once you get to the point that you kind of searched out all your extenders and starters, normally I kind of know what the rest of the cards in the deck are going to be. And so I added in Mystic Mine and Secret's Village of Spellcasters for our terraforming. Secret Village of Spellcasters is good when going first, because we can set up our board, put a spellcaster on the board, put a Secret Village on, and then our opponent can't use spells unless they have a spellcaster as well. And Mystic Mine is good for going second, because my opponent might put some monsters on the board, and then I could just put down Exodia, Mystic Mine, and then I can sit back and chill until I build up my board and get my resources ready. And for our deck, that's not too bad because we have Exodia. I did have Metaverse as well, but I decided to drop the Metaverse because there's a couple of other cards I really wanted to fit in. But other cards that I did put into this deck is obviously Obliterate. Obliterate is a Exodia support card that can remove one monster on the field and put it back into your opponent's hand, but then also sends a piece of Exodia from your deck to the graveyard. And so it serves two purposes. It works as an extender by putting pieces of Exodia in our graveyard, but then it also gets rid of an opponent's monsters as a removal threat. Then to wrap this up, I put in 3 copies of Call by the Grave, and I think that's all the key cards on the main deck. Call by the Grave will help our draw effects and search effects go off a little bit easier, provides us with some graveyard manipulation, and so that is the main framework of this deck. And now with this deck, we've got a lot of extenders and a lot of starters. So what I now need to do is put some other kind of cards, but put them in the extra deck that our other cards can be then summoned out and use as resources. So we're looking for now removal cards and defensive options. Now, depending on what type of extra deck monsters you're going to use, link monsters are good at being removal cards and endgame cards, but they're not very good at being defensive cards. There aren't very many options. But the cards I'm going to see added here are cards that I use quite a lot, so I'm probably going to fly through this part here. So we're going to be adding things like, we had our Link 1, that's going to be Link Karibo. We use Crowley, the Spellbook card, for the Link monsters, because we're playing with the Spellbook engine, so he can search out more Spellbook cards as an extender. We have IP Masquerena to do Link summoning during our opponent's turn. That turns our removal cards into defensive options. We have Nightmare Phoenix in there. I'm going to put a Cerberus in there as monster removal. And really, the cards I'm using here are just that generic stuff. It's just cards that can destroy cards on the field, banish cards on the field, and maybe do a bit of damage or stall for us as well. Playing Selene as well, Selene, Queen of the Mighty Magicians. Selene is a great extender for spellcasters. With all the spellcasters that we are using and all the spell trap cards, she's going to be able to revive them from the graveyard and summon them to the field, and then we can use them as more materials. And then we've got a couple of big boys on the field to help us attack our opponent and do damage if we want to. Avramax, Topologic Bomber Dragon, Zero Boros, cards which are all really easy to summon with both Selene and IP Masquerena. And yeah, so the deck is taking shape and form. So this is what I do. This is how I build my deck. I look at the starters, I use the cards related tab, I have spent a lot of time reading the cards and trying to work out what they all do, and then I look for areas where there's a lot of overlap and the cards work with each other in different ways. So we've built our deck now, and the first thing I'm going to do here is make sure my deck is happy. Oh, I'm looking for a duelist here. I wanted Grandpa Muto. It's crazy that Grandpa Muto is in the shop, but I can't choose him as an avatar here. Is there anybody else that's like that? I can't think of anyone. I can't think of anyone that's in the shop but not in a selectable avatar. So I think the closest guy to Grandpa is going to be Chancellor Shepherd. So we'll go for him. I never use Chancellor Shepherd. So now I'm going to go to online and I'm going to test out the deck. I'm going to see how well did it work. Did I go glance over something? Did something didn't work the way I wanted it to? What is it that I'm missing out from this deck that I need to put in? Now, normally, I try to test the deck as much as possible. And ideally, if you really want good quality testing, you want to get a partner, someone that you could just team up with, and you want to do like 10 games. 10 games with your deck just to get a feel for how it plays, what doesn't work well, what does work well, and then you can do a couple matches, and then you can focus on like specific matchups, like how does this deck work against, say, dinosaurs or spirals or something. But I'm doing online ranked. I'm just gonna play against random people because I'm not expecting too much from a deck like this. It's an Exodia deck after all, and I'm not expecting to be too competitive. I just really want to see that the deck works. And so here we are against Igor, and he sets one card, spell trap card in the back row, and one card face down, and then we will go into our draw phase, and we're going to draw a lot of cards here. Now we have two starters, which is great. We have Terraforming, which can search up Mystic Mind if we want to, and then we have Spellbook of Secrets. And having multiple starters is really good when you have in your opening hand, because starters are often the target of negation, like Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, for example. So if they do negate it, you do want more starters to be able to carry on your plays and push through your opponent's interruption, especially when you're going second. That's really, really important to have. But he didn't respond to Terraforming, which a lot of people wouldn't negate anyway, so that doesn't surprise me. But it does make me feel a little bit safer about using my other starters like Spellbook of Secrets, and now committing my normal summon to a star, and that's going to be Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. So we summon Prophecy or Blue Boy, and Blue Boy will then add to our hand Spellbook of Knowledge, which is an extender for the deck. You send one Spellbook card or Spellcaster card from your field or hand to the graveyard in order to then draw 2 cards. So we're going to lose 2 cards, but then we're going to draw 2 cards, and that's fine for us. We want to draw some cards here, and we drew into Magician's Restage and Magician's Souls, some really good extenders, along with some of the other cards in our hand as well. So I activate Magician's Souls. Magician's Souls can send either Exodia to the graveyard or Apprentice Illusion Magician. I don't really want to draw the Apprentice Illusion Magician, so I'm sending that to the graveyard. But I could send the Exodia Incarnate as well. I don't think it benefits me being in the graveyard, those cards, so I don't really want to, unless I can recover them, but that's not the plan. And so now we do the effect of Magician's Restage, but I'm not going to use it just yet. I do want to use Magician's Restage on a certain card. Actually, I am going to do it right now. I'm going to use it to revive a card from our graveyard. So we're going to activate it now. And then we could choose one level 3 or lower spellbook card, magician card, not spell magician, spellcaster card from our graveyard and summon it to the field. So Prophecy comes out, so we have 2 monsters on the field, and I'm trying to use as many cards as I can before using the effect of Magician Souls. So I'm going to use Magician Souls as a Link 1 material in order to summon Link Kuriboh. And I guess I didn't have to do this first, I could have done this second after doing Magician Souls effect, but it doesn't really matter either way. And then I'm going to try and bring back our Magician Souls, and we are going to activate Dark Magic Veil. So Dark Magic Veil is going to cost me 1000 life points, but I can revive our Magician Souls and bring that back to the field. Now with Magician Souls on the field, we can then use the effect if we want to, and we have to get rid of 2 of our cards in order to draw 2 cards, and I want to draw 2 cards, I don't want to just do 1. Now I'm going to go for Magician's Restage because its effect has been used, but I'm also going to go for Call by the Grave. That's not always the best option to do. Call by the Grave is an interaction, so we could negate one of our opponent's card effects, although we don't know what he's playing just yet. But I think the other cards will have better value at the moment, so I chose not to discard those right now. So we are now going to link away our 2 cards, and then we're going to make Nightmare Phoenix. And so with the Link Kuriboh arrow pointing down and Phoenix's arrow pointing up, they are going to become out co-linked. And so that's going to be better for us when we do Nightmare Phoenix's effect, because we're going to discard 1 card to destroy a spell trap card on the field. So we'll get rid of 1 copy of Obliterate because we don't need 2, because the card's effect is hard once per turn. And unfortunately he changed Threatening Roar, which is unfortunate for us. So that tells me he's playing some kind of stall deck, but at the very least, because our card was co-linked, we do get to draw another card, so we get to draw even more cards, although we did draw into another copy of Obliterate, so it's not really what we want to do. So because we can't attack our opponent this turn thanks to Threatening Roar, I want to set up my board before passing the turn. And so what I'm planning to do here is build a board with some interaction for our opponent. I could go for IP Masquerena, but that takes multiple monsters who are not linked monsters in order to summon it, so that's not going to be the easy thing to summon. But what I'm going to do here is make a different monster here. The only thing is I'm going to make Selene Queen of the Master Magicians, but I have to use, she has to be in the extra monster zone, so it means I have to use Link Kuriboh and Nightmare Phoenix and Apprentice Illusion Magician, because I need a Spellcaster, but I also need enough materials to make a Link 3. So I could have made a Link 4 there, but I'm going to go with the Link 3 instead. So it's a bit of a waste, but we wanted to pop that face down card anyway. So when Selene comes out, she activates her effect, and then we gain Spellcasters equal to the number of spell cards in either player's graveyard or on either player's field. And so I've got 7 spell cards in my graveyard, and so I've got 7 counters. And Selene's effect is that she can special summon out a spellcaster monster from your hand or graveyard to the field to a zone she points to in defense position, and the cost for that is removing 3 spell counters. Now she can do this during either player's turn and during your opponent's main phase, I believe. So this is really good because it will allow us to do some interactions during our opponent's turn. But because my opponent might destroy it, I want to use at least some of the spell counters now. So I'm using it to summon back Magician Souls, make Link Kuriboh, and then Link Kuriboh will protect her from being attacked because he can reduce monster's attack to 0. So that's really good for us. But this board isn't bad. This board is a pretty good board. Like, if this was my first turn board, I wouldn't complain about this none at all. We have our Floodgate in the form of Secret Village of Spellcasters. So my opponent can't use spell effects unless he has a Spellcaster too. We have Selene that can put more Spellcasters on our field, which is great. We have Link Kuriboh protecting them from destruction. And we have Obliterate, which can do monster removal and get rid of a monster on the field by sending a Forbidden One. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 interactions for our opponent, and our opponent chooses to pass there. Now, that game was quick. It was a good win. It was a good lacquer board. I like that was a good like first turn going board, even though we went second. But our opponent wants to rematch us here, so we're going to play one more time. He's changed his deck. He's got Yugi as his avatar now. Maybe he's playing Dark Magician. I've been playing so many Dark Magician decks recently. I'm kind of tired of it, to be honest with you. Don't get me wrong. I love Dark Magician. I think Dark Magician's good. And I think if your name is Tamias_9, there's a guy on the leaderboards called Tamias_9, and I think the guy only plays Dark Magicians. He's always only played that against me. His Dark Magician deck is amazing. It's like really, really good. Like he beats me a lot with Dark Magicians. But there's so many people playing Dark Magician or Blue Eyes at the moment, and I'm like, I don't mind seeing those decks, but there are other decks in the game, you know. Play some Salamand Crates, play some Orcus, people. Play Autogeist. No one plays Autogeist. Really, really great deck, but no one plays Autogeist. The format of Link Evolution is so different to real life because not because their cards are different, but the approach to the game is very, very different between the two. But as you can see, he's not playing Dark Magician. He's playing Blue Eyes, so you know, same kind of thing really. And he summons Alternative and Passes, which is interesting. Okay. Big boy on the board. I guess maybe he had no other interactions. Maybe he didn't have enough starters in his hand. He did have Melody, which wasn't too bad, but maybe his hand's full of bricks. So we're going to start our game off, and we started with 1, 2, 3 starters in our hand, being Souls, Double Secrets, and Souls and Double Secrets. But we also got 2 bricks in our hand. We got 2 copies of Exodia in our hand, and so we have to do what we can to make use of those cards. So we are going to normal summon Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, and I'm going to go grab Knowledge. And Knowledge can send a spellcaster you control or one other spellbook card from your hand or the field to the graveyard. But first, I'm going to activate Souls. Souls will send a card to the graveyard. We'll go for Apprentice Illusion Magician again, and that will go to the graveyard. Having Incarnate's not bad because it means that even if I draw like Apprentice Illusion early, I can still special summon her to the field, and then I can still summon Souls to the field by using one of those big boys as a target for it. And I'm not going to use Souls effect just yet. I do want to make Crowley, because Crowley is a good extender for this deck, but Crowley requires 2 spellcasters. So what I am going to do here is I'm going to send the other copy of Secrets that I can't use, and then we're going to just draw 1 card, and we drew it into another piece of Exodia, which is a brick. And this is the thing with Exodia decks. Like Exodia decks, when you're like playing Exodia Stun, or like you're doing like crazy Exodia draw decks, you don't really want to draw the pieces. You want to draw more extenders and then draw the pieces as late into the game as possible. Obviously not so late that you lose, but late enough that you're not breaking with them. And so that's kind of the goal. But we've got 3 pieces, so we're going to make it work and do the best we can. So I'll summon out Crowley. Crowley requires 2 spellcasters, and then we get to choose 3 of our spellbook cards from our deck, and then we can reveal one of them to our opponent, and then our opponent chooses 1 at random and adds 1 to the hand. We got another blue boy, which is okay, but we can't use it this turn. We can't use any of them this turn actually. We've used all of them already. As long as we didn't get Knowledge again, that's pretty good. And then I'm going to use a Knowledge to send Crowley to the graveyard. I've drawn 2 more cards into Obliterate and Instant Fusion, and then we're going to pop down Mystic Mine, and we're just going to chill and let our opponent pass. So we've done a bit of drawing. We've got 3 pieces of Exodia in our hand, and we've got Prophecy and Instant Magician, Instant Fusion in our hand. So we're going to pass over to Igor. Let's see what he does. Obliterate is a really good card. I like Obliterate. It's a good support for the Exodia deck. Obliterate can, just being able to like bounce any card on the field once per turn is really, really good. I don't know if we need 3 of them, but it's a card, when I was asked to do Exodia, it's a card I saw and I was like, you know what, I really want to use that card. But the version of Exodia that you're going to play with that card is very different to the way Exodia is traditionally played. Most versions of Exodia do not want their pieces to go to the graveyard because that could be very, very bad. But yeah, no, we don't mind using them in the graveyard because we have cards that can actually make good use of them, being our extenders and being our actual Exodia cards. So we draw into Dark Magic Veil. Mystic Mine is doing its work, and then another benefit of synergy between Mystic Mine and Spellbook Magician of Prophecy is we can summon Prophecy to the field and get it off the board before the end phase, and then without having to worry about our Mystic Mine blowing up. So we are going to normal summon Blue Boy again. We're going to do Blue Boy effect to get secrets. Secrets is going to activate. The Spellbook engine is really good. It can go even further beyond just being like a starter and an extender engine. You could do Spellbook of Fate, which can get rid of one card on the field. We can banish a card on the field or bounce a spell and track card on the field back to the hand. You can get Spellbook of Power, which can increase the attack of your spellcaster monsters by 1,000, and then lets you search out more Spellbook cards. It's a really good engine. It's just a very, very hefty engine, so you've got to dedicate quite a bit of space to it. But I don't dislike it. You've got Spellbook of Wisdom in there as well that can protect you from traps and spell cards as well. It's a pretty good engine nonetheless, and I think it's a good engine that people will always go back to. The only thing with Spellbooks is that you do need your normal summon to efficiently use your Blue Boy, so you get as many searches as you can, and that's the only kind of downside with it. But otherwise, I think it's a really, really good engine to use. And the synergy between it, Souls, Veil, Instant Fusion, Restage, all of those cards work really, really well together. Spellcasters are in a very powerful position at the moment. So, we got into Foolish Burial here. We drew the Foolish Burial. That's not going to help us too much, but we do have Obliterate on the board. So, I think it could be time to maybe win this game. Why not? I'm going to just go for it. I'm just going to try it right now. So, what we're going to first do here is I'm going to first use the effect of Magician Souls. Souls is going to get summoned to the field. And it was in this situation I was thinking about putting Dark Magician in. I wonder if you can probably use Magician Souls effect, but it would be pointless to do that actually. I'm trying to think of a way to put Souls on the board without making the number of monsters equal to Mystic Mine. But yeah, no, it's a bit, forget what my train of thought was for that. So I activate Souls, I send Exodia Incarnate, and I'm going to use Foolish Burial to send one more piece of Exodia. I'm going to send Exodia the Forbidden One to the graveyard. And the reason why I'm doing that is because Magician Souls has another piece of synergy that I haven't mentioned until now. So, Magician Souls is can send cards to the graveyard, and one card it can send to the graveyard that's really, really good is Obliterate, because Obliterate can activate its effect when it's in the graveyard. So we're going to send to the graveyard Call by the Grave and Obliterate, and then we're going to draw 2 cards. Obliterate is going to trigger, and we just drew into our final piece, our left leg of Exodia. And when Obliterate goes from the field to the graveyard, it can add a piece of Exodia back in. And there it is. If my opponent can do anything to stop me, this will have to be the time to do so. Call by the Grave would hurt a lot, but no, it doesn't happen. And we managed to win the game using Exodia. And so, yeah. I was so hyped when I was doing this. It was so much fun to win this way. This is the way I like to play Exodia decks. Like, well, I don't really play Exodia decks, but I like this way playing more than just sitting on Mystic Mine or some kind of stall card for a while. But yeah, hopefully this video has been entertaining to you guys. You got to see a little bit about what I do when I build the deck and what the stages that I go through. You got to see some games, and we got to see Exodia get some action on the channel. Thank you guys as always for watching. I'll see you soon. Take care.